When you really want to make a fundamental change, that change has to come from outside the academic world. This is a paradigm shift.
In his attempt to reconstruct historical tempo, Wim Winters has made a name for himself after adapting the disputed performance practice known as whole beat.
The 1816 directions for using Melzel's metronome is the most important source on the use of the metronome. Each single tick gives part of the intended time, meaning the quarter notes.
He argues that the metronome indications of works by the likes of Bach and Beethoven have been misread for more than a century, pointing to numerous historical sources indicating that the current tempi is up to twice as fast as the original.
If you cannot play in the tempi you claim that are simply possible, you're out of the business.
Winters' steadfast claim that the whole beat practice is the historically correct reading of the metronome has sparked an ongoing controversy and sheer outrage among musicians.
Conspiracy theories are like viruses. Double beat theory has often been compared to flat earth, and there is a lot to be said for the comparison.
So what do you think? Should Beethoven's Ninth Symphony be performed in whole beat? Or according to the common practice known as single beat?
I really sometimes think like we are not ready to put our own taste and our own habits and our own individual musician aside and say, no, I'm totally in service of Mr. Beethoven. So that if he would come into the door, I wouldn't have to explain anything to him, what I was doing. And I think the answer in many cases would be actually not. In single beat, every tick would be the duration of one quarter note in the music. Mm-hmm. In whole beat, what we call whole beat, we take the full swing, which is still used today by physicists. Like if they count a pendulum swing, they don't count like 1, 2, 3. They count like 1 and 2 and 3, which is interesting, this concept, because when you wait until you return to the first point, you have actually a subdivision of it and you feel the tempo. Even at a very high level, people seem not to have given this a real thought. If I explain them that the problem is really big, they say, yeah, but maybe some metronome marks are there that we cannot reach. No. There are thousands of metronome marks we cannot reach, and they are so ridiculous. You have this feeling of this Charlie Chaplin movements, you know, but then on even a higher speed, so and then you hear and you feel like this is physically not possible anymore. When Beethoven spoke French who went to concert with his music, guess what his first question was? How are my tempo? Procedure A is single beat, you've tried that, just get rid of that. Procedure B with this whole beat, which means the coming month you're going to play in whole beat and assumes it is the correct theory. After 1 week, but certainly after 1 month, you will not go back to procedure number 1 because you have fixed everything. And of course, then you have the stories of the broken metronome. Beethoven's metronome was broken, or he read under, you know, under the weight, like here, which is like just try that. I mean, and my response to all of that is if Beethoven had a metronome that was broken, then you just labeled the guy to be an idiot. When the machine ticks on 60, it gives a second. So you're telling me that the composer of the Ninth Symphony was not able to, his entire life, since 1815, see that, and his whole entourage kept silent, say like, hey, we know that Beethoven's, we're not going to say anything because, yeah, we can, I mean, come on, and that's for 4 generations. That's a conspiracy theory.
I find the double beat theory to be utterly without merit.
Everything has to be according to Wim's double beat theory.
He is quite scared and finds it difficult to admit anything.
Winters is a professional cherry picker of the highest rank.
There is some pressure from, of course, the academic world, and which I totally can understand.
he has well and truly become the guru of a new cult, in that he gets more and more disconnected from reality.
This crazy double beat or half beat theory, it doesn't work, it doesn't hold water.
The double beat theory has lost the right to be a position of academic discussion.
It's not that they conspire or collude or whatever, but it's like very human. The discussions on internet, of course, are very difficult, even with people that should do better. I mean, Tomacek, I've asked these questions on Facebook in the Historical Informed Performance group. The next thing I knew, I was kicked out of the group. Anyways, Thomas Kuhn, he wrote a book. It's a guy who invented the term paradigm shift. Like in the 60s, he wrote a book like Scientific Evolution. And he says, for instance, like, when you really want to make a fundamental change, that change has to come from outside the academic world. Because if you are inside the academic world, you have to work with the pieces that are presented to you by your previous generation. In a way, you are puzzle solvers. So a real paradigm shift throughout history always comes from outsiders. And when I read that, I felt so relieved, but because let's be honest, I am not trained as a musicologist. Lorenz, yes, he is. And I learned a lot from him. I mean, I had to. I had to level up in this sense. So literally, this would be?
Literally wäre es dum dum bim bam 16 pro Sekunden.
The first book that my colleague wrote in 2010, Lorenz Gadient, he wrote after 30 years of research. And we were connected to each other thanks to the clavichord that I play. He's a clavichord player too. For 7 years. I was rejecting his theory. And then I was playing one day, I remember still the moment, it was like this aha-erlebnis. I was playing Mozart's 6th sonata, D major, the last one of the München sonatas. There you have a beautiful adagio, elaborated with notes. And I said, okay, 50 for the 8th note, ideal tempo. And I checked the Moscheles tempo. Moscheles was a contemporary of Czerny, also a friend of Beethoven. 8th note 100. And then I had a moment of silence. I said, okay, but there's no possibility. If you have ornaments on 30-second notes, that you're going to speed up that much. And I thought, like, maybe, maybe I should give it a real try. And this is so interesting, because what happened then is not that I saw the light. I just gave it a try. Right. And I realized for 7 years I didn't give this a try. People who want to have a really active career as a professional pianist, oftentimes they leave conservatory with lifelong injuries. What does it with your body when you play like years, 8 hours a day? Even carpal tunnel syndrome, I mean, that's so obvious. And also isolation, that musicians feel bad because they cannot play like they should play. So they retreat from stage, they just go on their own. They have mental depressions, even neural dystonia, which is really that your brain shuts down part of your body because the overactive pulses that you receive. And all of that is like not talked about. It's talked about, but it's not, it's like, and if you mention it, it's like, yeah, we feel brave because we are suffering. Like, I don't understand that. It's like this carrot of saying like, no, if you just practice a little bit, the truth is behind the corner there. And then students go and they practice and they go and they destroy their bodies and also they destroy their joyfulness in music. I mean, the depression is like so high, they get up and they have to practice and they have to practice and they have to practice. Then they go on stage and they fail because of nerves, and then they come at the corner and they look around, there's nothing. No, it's in the other corner. If we take away this carrot or this looking around the corner, how is a musician still getting up in the morning, practice 8 hours to realize I will never be able to play Beethoven's Hammerklavier Sonata or Wildstein or whatever. We take that away because you can with much less practicing. So this not only changes the entire view on music, but also on education and especially on enjoying music. And we bring that music back to where it belongs, with the amateur. I mean, every pianist that ends music school now should be able to play all Mozart sonata in an authentic way. I'm not saying that's easy, because setting the tempo floor is just one thing. You have to make music on top of that. What can whole beat mean? I think it can revive the entire classical music. The choice of tempo is for every musician critical. when you change the tempo, even slightly, you change everything. Imagine tomorrow, Carnegie Hall would announce Beethoven symphonies conducted by Beethoven, wouldn't you go? I can take Beethoven's tempo. Can you imagine how powerful that is? And I don't have to compromise. You can actually hear all the notes. You can feel all the harmonies. It's not like some fast impulses that just pass by you with some harmonic references. It's real harmonic power. Liberating.